again, welcome all to our first VLRM Shareholder Meeting. We're going to be waiting a few minutes just to get everybody settled, as all the attendees are obviously gathering in, getting the links and getting involved. I can see about 34, 36 is going up now quite quickly. We had over 100 attendees register, which is fantastic. So a big thank you to everybody for taking your time out today to come and listen to the presentation from, of course, the VLRM executive team. Like I mentioned, we're going to give a few minutes to get everybody in, and then I will be reading out a disclaimer and we'll get the ball rolling. Now, this disclaimer has already been seen by everybody who registered when they came in to the VLRM Shareholder Meeting. So yes, I will get this going in just a moment. As I mentioned, we've got 60 attendees now coming in, so we're piling in fast, which I like. Again, a huge thank you to everyone for taking time out today of your day to come and listen to what we're going to be doing here at VLRM. I'm DC, and I run the communications for VLRM, and we've been working hard behind the scenes. Now, both this presentation will be in video form and also as a document that will be available on VLRM's new website, which is going to be VLRM.com. You will see the details of that in Telegram and online and everywhere else. And you will see further details as we talked about in this presentation regarding that. But if you want to look through it again, if you want to watch it again, you will be able to do so through the VLRM.com website. So a brand new one. Hopefully all going well, because there's a few bits and pieces we're finishing off. But tomorrow we're hoping to go live with the new website as a refresh of the current one that you see. 69 attendees are now coming in. So we're going to wait another minute or so just to see how many more will come in. Now hit 70, which is great because obviously a lot of people that registered obviously want to come in. So it's very much appreciated, as I mentioned. Now there's 70 people. I will probably start with the disclaimer. Let's get this show on the road. So it's going to be long and boring, and you've already accepted it through the registration, but I need to still say it verbally, so I will do so now. And obviously, if you don't agree with this disclaimer, you can, of course, leave the session. Now, this presentation is intended solely for informational purposes and is not an offer or solicitation to buy or sell securities. VLRM PLC and its representatives are not providing and do not offer investment, legal, or tax advice. Investors should consult with their own advisors before making any investment decisions. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The value of the investments can fluctuate and may result in losses. Investing in securities involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. VLRM PLC does not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information provided in this presentation. The information contained therein may include forward-looking statements, which are subject to risks and uncertainties. Actual results may differ materially from those expressed or implied in such statements. VLRM PLC undertakes no obligation to update or revise any forward-looking statements, whether as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise. Investors should conduct their own due diligence and carefully consider their investment objectives, risk tolerance, and financial situation before investing any reliance on the information provided in this presentation. Is at the investor's own risk. By accessing this presentation, investors acknowledge that they have read, understood, and agree to be bound by this disclaimer. They further acknowledge that they are responsible for compliance with any applicable laws and regulations in their jurisdiction. So we now have 73 attendees, and it has stabilized at 73, and we have hit the 5 minutes past mark. So we'll get going in just a second. I want to point out, in terms of housekeeping here, there is a question box where you can ask questions throughout. We have already been inundated, which is amazing. So thank you very much for everybody who's passed us questions already via the registration link. So we will be going through those as well. If we don't get to your question, worry not. We will take all those questions and attempt to answer them in the future, whether we can for legal or regulatory or other reasons. depending obviously on the question, but we aim to obviously get your questions answered. We hope that this presentation as well will answer all the questions you may have additionally going forward. And we will have at the end of this session a question and answer session with the team where your questions will be answered, including a lot of those people, as I mentioned, that prior sent in those questions. So I've read the disclaimer and we are good to go. So this is how it's going to be running today in the shareholder meeting. First of all, we will have a meet the board from our chairman, James Fromoli. We have the VLRM strategy and vision by our CEO, Nick Cowan. We have a marketing and branding session from Pete Secon, which many of you know from the community. We have our governance and CFO update from Carl Moss, funny enough, our CFO. And then, of course, Carl will be talking about the remuneration aspects of our plans. And then at the end, as I mentioned, we have a Q&A. So what I'm going to be doing now is introducing you to James Fromoli, who is our chairman, and he has a few words to say regarding the board.
Good afternoon. I'm James Fromoli, the chairman of VLRM PLC, and all welcome to the VLRM Shareholders Meeting. As you are all too aware, it's been a pivotal period since my appointment and that of my board. We have turned a failing business into one that now has promise, a structure, good governance, and a roadmap forward. In the last 5 months, we have re-emerged back onto the markets from suspension, removed the onerous convertible loan note, agreed to purchase the GSX Group, which we successfully concluded and on time in January of this year. We have secured a dynamic board and we have a plan, vision, and a purpose to deliver value. I'm extremely excited about the journey ahead. And the first part of that journey is to present to you today our roadmap for the next 18 to 24 months. At this time, I'd like to give some reassurance around my recent financial commitment to the company. I just wanted to make it clear that I have no intention in selling any of my shares, and I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. There is just one point of housekeeping that sadly, due to a quite extensive non-disclosure agreement, Pete is unable to answer any questions today in relation to his hair. So apologies for that if anyone has tuned in for that. I now have the pleasure in introducing you to the VLRM board. There's me, James Fromoli, the group chairman, Nick Cowan, the group CEO, Carl Moss, our group CFO, Simon Brickles and Gary Cottle, our non-executive directors, and Peter Secon, our investor relations director. I'd now like to hand you over to Nick, who will carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Jamie. Hi, everybody. So, as Jamie said, I think we've both companies have obviously had a challenging 23, and I think we had the opportunity to try to create something which we think provides, as Jamie said, a lot of promise. We've been extremely busy since November, when the discussions really started picking up and obviously concluding as we went through January with the GSX Group shareholders approving the transaction. We have a lot to get through today, and sadly for you guys, quite a bit of it's going to be me. So I will get started. The agenda today is as on this slide. We are going to be focusing as a company, as you've seen from previous RNSs, on tokenization. That is where we see an enormous opportunity, and what we want to be at VLRM is front and center of what we see as this seismic shift in the way assets are issued, traded, and settled. So in terms of technology solutions, in terms of being a market operator, we want people to think about VLRM in that space. The opportunity, depending on the stats that you look at, but we'll dive into some of those during this presentation, are absolutely enormous. There's sizable opportunity over the next cycle. With regards to the tokenization of both public markets and real world assets. We have been working through the acquisition of the GSX Group. We've been working over the last literally 4 or 5 years in the design and development of our originally called GateNet stack, which we will be rebranding to the Bridge. I'll dive into that today. I'll also give you an overview of the VLRM markets strategy in terms of the market operations that we want to put in place. And also I'll give you a little bit of a heads up on VLRM Capital, where we want to build an investment business. And then I will go through the team. Okay, so let's take a look. Why now? I don't intend to read these out to you, but what we're seeing is increased, I guess, traction, increased publicity, and increased statements by meaningful players who can see the opportunity as we see it. You'll see that this presentation, by the way, is going to be uploaded, as will the recording, but you'll see in there a link on the bottom right. If you haven't seen that already, it's a really good clip of Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and he talks about for securities and BlackRock, the biggest game changer that they see on the horizon is tokenization of securities, removing all that friction and making things about enhanced efficiency. And I'll be talking about that too. So people smarter than us are looking at this. And in terms of adoption, there's controversy around central banks adopting digital currencies. There's a lot of views about it, but the point is adoption is happening. And I think governmental adoption, whether we like it or not, is a serious signal as to, I think, a nascent sector maturing. And I think this is going to be the theme again over the next decade. Let's dive into what we do. So there are 4 sections I'm going to talk about, and we'll go into more detail. This is just a quick overview. But we are going to dive into technology. As many of you know, as followers of Group, before we were acquired, we've been partnering up with some fantastic vendors on the technology side. Our strategy is to deliver a full tokenization suite. The strategy is then to license that technology. It's been our plan for a long time. Obviously, there's been a couple of bumps along the way, but that is our long-term strategy. And we want to be able to license our tech to a broad number of financial institutions globally. We see that as the way to scale, and be it exchanges, brokers, marketplace operators, etc. We want to be able to develop that technology, continue to develop the technology over the next cycle, and license that to a broader number of partners as possible, to build the network that was our original vision within the GateNet strategy, which we're now rebranding to the Bridge. Now we are part of the VLRM family. One of the users of that technology will be VLRM Markets. We will have 2 strands to the markets business. The public markets business, where we will aim, and I just want to caveat a lot of the presentations. You heard DC at the beginning, and you will hear Carl repeat these caveats. These are what we want to do. These are our objectives. This is part of our core vision. As I've learned, and as I'm sure anybody in the financial sector knows, not all your objectives pan out the way you want them to. When you are looking to acquire a license and operate a business as complex as an exchange and a CSD, there is a myriad of things to navigate, and one of which is having a regulator support you in terms of the building of that business. But we want to establish an exchange, a public exchange, and that is going to be the core strategy probably through to 25, and that will be where we deploy the Bridge. But we don't want to wait until next year. We want to get open this year with real-world asset marketplaces. We see an enormous opportunity in real-world assets, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. And we think we can deploy RWA this year to get a marketplace open really as quickly as possible, because I think, I think from shareholders' perspective and actually token holders' perspective as well, we need to demonstrate that we can execute, and this is about us executing and about getting markets open. So there's going to be an enormous amount of effort in terms of delivery on the market side. On the capital side, we see and we have been seeing over the last up to 5 years fantastic opportunities in terms of crypto. So we want to be able to exploit those opportunities. We want to be able to build an investment business, inviting in both third-party capital and, where appropriate, and when the board and Carl We'll facilitate it also running VLRM's capital. We want to be able to deploy that capital into wherever we see opportunities, be it in principal trading, but also in yield generation, be it yield farming or node operation, etc. And that is a business we see developing over the next few years, but we'll kick that off pretty much immediately from as soon as the capital comes into the company. You've already seen in the RNS the offer from our chairman to seed that business too, and we can then get cracking and try to build a track record. Also on the token side, look, if you've been a long-suffering token holder, and we've obviously been had the token out there since 2018. It's been a long time, but I think what we have now is an incredible opportunity where we are a PLC, and a PLC in the UK that is listed but also has its own token. We think that's unique. I'm probably wrong, but we see a number of opportunities in building the utility of Gate token a lot more quickly than we were able to do within the Geosets group. The same principles apply. You can go to gatenet.io. There is the white paper that we released almost 3 years ago now, back in 2021. That talks about the utility, and it talks about the transaction fee model. The idea being that we deploy our technology, we collect transaction fees wherever there is an action, be it a primary deal, be it a secondary trade, or be it a corporate action. Those transaction fees then get collected, and effectively a portion of that can be used to reward token stakers, but equally they can be used to burn. We will be deploying the governance module this year, which we're really excited about. And we want to build the tokenomics, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So that's just a brief overview of the different pillars. Just going into more detail then on the technology side. So we've been, we first set out on the design of the digital securities infrastructure, basically the DFMI, digital financial markets infrastructure, right back in 2018. And we spent a lot of time and actually a lot of money designing how this technology should work. And bear with me over the next couple of slides, because I'll try and keep it as high level as possible. And you'll see elements of this in the white paper too. But we spent a lot of time on the design, and then started the development. So it starts with obviously the technology and being able to effectively build what we call a T-instant solution for the settlement of securities. We see that as the big game changer, with tokenization being the enabler of that. If you move to T-instant, and you can deliver that technology and get it into the markets, you're going to increase the number of stakeholders. And again, it's not just an exchange network. We want to be able to bring in financial institutions to use our technology, because we see immense efficiency being delivered by collapsing the DFMI vertical. And the more stakeholders that we generate, the greater the income. And that income, as I said earlier, comes from a number, I hope you can read upside down, comes from a number of different sources. And we believe that that's the key to diversify our earnings. And then we can seek to grow. And we grow not just by the licensing of an increasing number of people, but continue to enhance the technology. And we need to develop new boards. We should be looking to focus on trying to develop a securities borrowing and lending board, increasing the number of protocols which we interact with, maxing out the number of asset classes which we can tokenize and trade and settle, and basically try to build that global liquidity. There's been a lot of false starts in tokenization. And I think that's for a number of reasons. We see this changing. There's a huge maturity going on for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So we think we're front and center, and we think we're in the right place. This might look a little bit confusing, so I'll keep it very simple. We are on the left-hand side currently. We are 95% completed in terms of getting to phase 1. So we call this V1 phase 1, version 1 of our technology. And effectively what we're doing is in phase 1, we are using analog software in terms of the matching engine, the CSD technology, central securities depository technology, and surveillance. And then we are replicating all of those actions on the blockchain. We aim to complete phase 1 during Q4 this year. I always use aim carefully. Daryl, our CTO, always tries to throw rocks at me, but we are aiming to get this completed this year. That is the target. And then really the hard work starts in terms of developing phase 2 and phase 3. That is where we actually start to develop the on-chain functionality, and where we start to run what we call a parallel run. So basically replicating what the analog technology is doing, but on-chain. And that means effectively building an on-chain central securities depository. I don't expect everyone to know what a CSD does, but in summary, it does 3 things. A CSD makes securities, it settles securities, and it maintains securities. And that's effectively what CSDs do for a living. What we want to try to do is to replicate that functionality on-chain and then drive that CSD into ultimately the matching engine, so we can settle in the matching engine with something called settlement finality. So when you've settled, you are on the register. And that's been our vision for a few years now. And we see now probably the best opportunity we've got in front of us to deliver this. We put there in 2026. It really depends in terms of 25 how we get on with the on-chain functionality. But we are basically pedal to the metal in terms of getting this done and moving this forward, and starting immediately. And then we will continue to develop that technology, as I alluded to previously. So really where we are right now is we reached the demo phase, if you like, in terms of the back end of last year. We have a video that gives a sort of high level overview of the tech. But really what we've got to get to now is get it finished and get it out there and start licensing it. And hopefully we can also in parallel achieve what we want to achieve within the markets business, which I'll talk about next, so that we can actually showcase the tech and show that it actually works in a public market. And that's the goal with regards to the tech. When we look into markets, we talked about an exchange and CSD. There is obviously, we know public markets, they work, and they've worked for decades, if not centuries. But we think we can make the wheel spin a little bit faster. We talked historically about some of the dislocation events, whether it was Lehman's going bust in 2008, or whether even during the volatility that we saw with Robinhood going back, I think a year or two, where DTC was demanding several billion in an afternoon. We think there's risk there in the market that we can deploy our technology. It's not going to happen overnight. You saw that from the phased approach. We don't see this as a big bang, but we do see a migration happening in the public markets because it's efficient. And whether you have efficiencies such as counterparty risk or capital or costs or interoperability, those values are still very much in place, and the addressable market is absolutely enormous, as we all know. Those markets are, I think, ready over the next 3 to 5 years to migrate to a much more efficient back end. It's taking the post-trade environment and moving it at trade, and that ultimately is what our technology is all about. The current legacy model, again, this presentation will be uploaded, so I'm not going to go through it right now. But if you imagine you're on the top left as a seller and I'm on the top right as a buyer, you have to go through all of that rigmarole to end up with your name on the shareholder register and your money in my bank account. It is, we think, overly complex, and brokers are acting as principals. They are fronting your order with their own capital. We think the whole thing is because of the legacy systems, for the reasons on the right-hand side, open to enormous efficiency. That's the problem. So the solution is just to try to flatten the infrastructure, to remove a lot of the verticals, to effectively remove the clearing element, because you don't need a clearing element if you're settling when you trade. And that delivers these solutions on the right, and you can see the benefits are absolutely enormous. So the public markets is very much part of our core 3 to 4 year vision to basically get the tech to phase 4, and then really start to license it. But it won't stop us licensing V1 phase 1 in 25. If you look at real world assets, there is an increasing amount of fantastic data out there. Look, like any business, we love to jump on great bits of data that support our strategy. But you look at real world assets, BCG came out with this report. Some of you may have seen it, but they are looking at the growth of real world assets being up to 10% of global GDP. I don't know if that's right, but what we do know is if the base case is 16 trillion and the upper case is 68 trillion, it's a damned big marketplace and an opportunity. And again, we want to be in the middle of that tokenization. And without wishing to sound like someone off Dragon's Den, you really don't need a very big market share of the tokenization universe when your market size is in the tens of trillions of dollars to have a significant impact on stakeholder value. There are more reports like BCG. They're coming out every day. Citi came out with one, we have all those reports, but they all have the same theme. This looks like the old business plans I used to submit when I worked in investment banking, except mine were more of a hockey stick. But you can see this is a growing sector, be it in public markets or being in real world assets, and we want to be in both strands. I've collapsed this all into one slide, but it's a similar number of problems. Real world assets, you think about fractionalization of real estate. That's not new. It's actually been around for a long time. It's just super inefficient. It's a bit of a closed market. You need to be a sophisticated investor, and it's not very efficient in terms of centralized. It tends to be decentralized, but not in the efficient DeFi way. And we think that is absolutely ripe for change. I think without bashing numbers around, I think there's like a couple of 100 trillion in real estate. These numbers are absolutely off the charts. And if you can bring those asset classes onto and use technology as an enabler, you start to work through the causes of the problem and therefore deliver solutions. And we see tokenization as the absolute solution to increase the number of asset classes that can be serviced and also try to bring some degree of liquidity to illiquid assets. And that's got to be a good thing. Okay, the other thing that we will be planning, you'll see on the wording, aims to launch. That's our strategy. We aim to launch the wallet this year. We believe we can. We see the VLRM wallet as not just a gimmick. We see it very much as a portal into the VLRM world. And we want to be able to launch this app and the wallet this year in tandem with the real world asset marketplace launch, so that you will be able to download your app. You can be onboarded, you can be whitelisted, and then you can get access to our marketplaces, but you can also hold your gate token in there. You can take staking decisions, you can be involved in the voting. And then further down the line, we want to be able to link those to other exchanges through our wallet infrastructure, so that you'll be able to, we don't want to be a leading crypto exchange. I tried that and I've got a t-shirt and it really hurt. Let the big boys dominate the market. If you can't be in the top 10, don't bother. And I don't think we're even the top 100. So it's just, you have the cost of Binance with 0.001% of the revenues. It's just not, it's not for us. But what we can do is we can enable our wallet to connect to those exchanges and give you the flexibility, if you want to be able to do what you want to do on other exchanges, but use your wallet to interact with our business and our services and products. And that's what we want to try and do. And also we will be looking at fiat enabling, because we see that as a really key factor as well. Not just posting some USDT and buy a gold token. We actually want you to be able to deposit fiat through a fiat rail and be able to take place in our market, participate in our marketplaces. So that's what we will be focusing on. So the roadmap in summary is we will be doing discovery in terms of the public markets, and we will be looking to submit an application somewhere, maybe even somewheres, we will obviously try to acquire that license during 25. We're actually pretty good at that process. We know what we're doing. We have the skill set and the team to enable us to do that, and we will be moving pretty quickly. We don't know where that's going to be yet, but we have a very short list of favorable jurisdictions. So that will happen immediately. The RW marketplace, I've said, we want to try and get something open this year. Just to be clear, When we open a marketplace, you might recognize some of the technology. That's because the partners we work with on our technology, we might just white label one of their technology solutions to get an RWA marketplace open. I'm not here thumping the table saying that it's going to be our tech. It will be a tactical solution when the DFMI technology platform is at a stage of evolution. We can then look to move strategically to use our own technology for RWA. But at the moment, if we waited for that, we will be looking at probably back in at 25. We don't want to wait that long. We'll just get one of our partners. We'll white label their tech. It will be called VLRM Markets. We'll enable the wallet, and anybody interested can get cracking. That's the strategy. In terms of VLRM Capital, we, as I said earlier in the introduction, we just see an enormous amount of opportunities, and we have a lot of skill within our company and a lot of knowledge. Be it in terms of risk and money management. You know, my background was I was the global head of trading for one of the world's largest investment banks. I then became the global head of equities. I then became a professional trader for 8-9 years, running my own capital before I was asked to lend a hand to open the Gibraltar Stock Exchange for 3 months. That turned into 10 years. So we've got a lot of skill in terms of running assets, and also we have a lot of skill in terms of crypto, in terms of exploiting opportunities there. So why not use external capital and our own capital to provide above market returns? We just think it's a great opportunity based on the skill set we have, and it gives a little bit of extra diversification to our business model. We talked about utility token earlier. As I said, I won't repeat this, but the transaction fees, they will be generated by licensed users of the bridge. So we will license our technology as a white label solution to exchanges and brokers, etc. And one of those will be VLRM Markets. And then we can charge for those transactions, be they primary, secondary, or corporate. And then we can distribute those transaction fees. That will be part of a governance vote to be, as I said, activated via the staking site. And we will put it to the community to vote how you want those fees to be split. It would be great to finally have that go live, because that has been about 3 years in discussion. But we also want to widen utility, because we want to be able to offer discounted fees. If you want to basically buy a real world asset on one of our VLRM market real world asset marketplaces, you will get a discount on fees if you pay in Gate token. We talked about governance earlier, so we will, as I said, be activating that. But we're also going to look to, on the VLRM Capital side, we want to be able to use some of our returns. And again, this is the objective. We need to do some research in terms of any legal and regulatory obligations. But we've got effectively a third-party asset management business in VLRM Capital, and VLRM Capital will use a percentage of its returns to buy and hold Gate token, or buy and burn Gate token. That decision will be made at some point in the future. We won't be using VLRM PLC's money to buy Gate token via VLRM Capital. What we will be doing is, if we generate returns, we'll be charging a performance fee to our clients, and out of that performance fee, VLRM Capital will decide what it wants to do with it, and if it wants to buy and hold or buy and burn Gate token. But that is one of the elements of tokenomics that we want to bring in. On the liquidity side, obviously Gate token has been had horrible liquidity for the last year or two, and we want to deepen that. So Uniswap, when we have the capital in the company, we will add some capital into Uniswap, so we increase the liquidity pool. OTC, which has appeared to be a market, is due to go live tomorrow, and there will be a link on our Shiny website, which Pete will talk about a little bit later. And then at some point, probably in the next 12 months, but we will see when appropriate, we'll look to get Gate onto a centralized exchange. But that decision we won't be making today. We'll start with Uniswap and OTC and go from there. As I said, on the tokenomics side, the growing ecosystem will basically generate more transaction fees. It increases more buying demand. There will be deflationary aspect as we basically try to burn Gate tokens existing supply. On the left hand side, that was almost definitely out of date as of an hour ago, because Thursday is staking day. So if you own Gate token and you staked your Gate token, you will probably see a little reward in your wallet. But that was, as of last count, that was roughly where roughly where we were coming out as of 48 hours ago. And you can see, actually, as a token, there's a healthy amount staked. It's about 450 million Gate token that's been staked. So as you can see, there is we enjoy a very loyal set of token holders who are currently earning 10% by staking their tokens. That's the minimum you can earn right now, and obviously our objective is to increase that as we turn on the machinery this year. This is speculative. This is a future utility that we want to explore. There are about 4 million caveats that we need to shout about, because obviously we will have to ensure that structurally, regulatory, legally, compliantly, and any other E I can think of. But this is what we see as a very exciting part of being part of the VLRM family. We started to look at the investment concept going back about 4 years. And in fact, in our original documentation, when we were putting together the target operating models for both the GateNet CSD and the GateNet ATS with our vision, we talked about the investment concept. And the investment concept is the following. Number one, public companies tend to lose touch with their shareholders. I think VLRM is unique in that with Pete and the gang, there's actually a very close connection with the shareholders, but generally big companies lose touch with their shareholders. And there is an enormous amount of evidence that points to a customer of a company. If you can turn them into a shareholder or vice versa, they tend to stick. And that is a double win for the company. They tend not to sell their shares, and they will carry on buying their iPhone kind of thing. So it is turning a customer into an investor, into an investor, basically is what you're trying to do. And we think that we can exploit Gate token for that purpose to eligible and whitelisted users, that you will be able to use your VLRM wallet to be able to press a button. You'll be able to redeem your Gate tokens for a VLRM share or a VLRM tokenized depository receipt, a TDR as we call it, a tokenized representation of VLRM ordinary shares. And we will be able to fund that business out of the returns that we're generating. So it wouldn't be dilutive. We would be buying shares. That's why the structure has to be carefully analyzed, because a subsidiary buying shares in its parent doesn't work. So we need to make sure that it's appropriate. But the idea being that you can redeem your Gate tokens, and in return you get shares. And we think that is really exciting to be able to square the circle so that VLRM shareholders and Gate token holders merge together to seeing the benefits. You can use Gate token to pay for services within the marketplace, but also you'll be able to turn it into becoming a long-term shareholder of the company too. So this is something we're gonna run with. Obviously, we wouldn't be looking to deploy this until V1 phase 1 of the DFMI is completed, because we actually need that technology to be able to support this. But as a 25 initiative, we think this could be pretty exciting for the Gate token utility. There is no guarantee that this will happen, so please don't shout at me in a year's time and say you told us. What I'm just saying to you is we see this as a fantastic opportunity for everybody. And we think that if it works and we can make it work legally and compliantly, then we think we could license that solution to any company that has customers and a reward program. So you can see what we're thinking. Okay, I am now finished. So I will hand over to Pete, and I will now go on to mute. Pete, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. So yeah, marketing and branding. So I think it's important we kind of tell you what we've been doing behind the scenes, and where we intend to go in the future. So bring you on that journey. So I guess from the very beginning, we had a key decision to make around kind of, did we want to rebrand or refresh? And I guess based on extensive research, so looking at kind of collateral, the VLRM GI website, associated accounts, we decided collectively as a team to kind of go with the refresh. So that was kind of our thinking in terms of uplifting the current logo. So with that, enhancing the design and branding, and kind of moving away from VLRM in terms of a name and going into the tech space, looking at trying to do something what the tech companies are doing. And on the back of that, we're delighted to announce, obviously, going forward, the hashtag will be hashtag VLRM. and that will be incorporated into all our branding alongside the opportunity which we've taken to acquire VLRM.com. As part of the kind of ecosystem that we've adopted through the natural acquisition of the GSX Group, the ecosystem itself will consist of a number of branded entities, each with their own dedicated website. There's a nice little visual here that kind of shows you VLRM Markets, VLRM Capital, VLRM Technology, and including in the suite of kind of these additional branded entities that we've got, we'll be looking to expand and use the GateNet website, which was previously under construction under the GSX Group, and that will be able to kind of showcase our technology. And when we're talking about that technology, we're talking about the bridge, the DFMI platform that the GSX Group previously have spent a number of years investing in. And in terms of taking kind of the current website forward, we've been working on a phase 1 soft launch, which we will hopefully be able to share with you tomorrow. But going forward, obviously, we'll be engaging with a number of design agencies to make sure we create a unique brand for each of the entities that sit in the VLRM ecosystem. So as you're quite aware, just from my background, we're very keen as a company to work on the comm strategy, and that sits within 4 pillars. So the VLRM.com website, the onboarding of PR agency and PR, shareholder comms, which is something close to my heart, and obviously social media. So as of tomorrow, as the guys have alluded to, we'll be looking to share a new immerse website that will kind of become the forefront of VLRM.com, where investors will be able to use this as a gateway into VLRM Markets, VLRM Technology, and also the GateNet side of it. So we're hoping we try and create an experience for investors, shareholders, and the wider markets, with a view of launching a more comprehensive website in the near future, which we'll talk about on a future slide. In terms of shareholder comms, again, I think the key here for us as a business is to ensure we've got an effective shareholder comms strategy to ensure we deliver transparency and insight. And there's a number of ways we are working and aiming to do that. And I think you've seen probably a number of changes over the last couple of months, and we'll continue to do that. So this shareholder meeting, I guess, is a good example of that today. For the first time, we are kind of presenting our business, what the future looks like, our strategy and our vision, with some comprehensive roadmaps to kind of allow you to come on that journey with us. The other things we've been working on, I guess, is kind of the informative comms, so such as RNSs, this new website, which will also have key documentation on there. It will give you a good insight in terms of what we're doing. Also, hopefully, educate a lot of new customers and new shareholders who potentially don't know what tokenization is about, or the fields of expertise that we're looking to expand into. In terms of kind of how we take VLRM forward from a branding perspective and exposure, currently we're in talks with Waxmans, and I think quite comfortably we will be looking to kind of hopefully do something with them in the near future, where we will look to kind of onboard them as a blockchain crypto experienced business who will help us with a robust marketing campaign. And we believe they are going to help us increase that exposure and brand awareness and help us target the right audiences for our investment, but more importantly, our technology. And we want to share this bespoke technology with not just UK markets, but global markets as well. There's a number of initiatives we'll be doing alongside this to increase that exposure and attract new shareholders. And a number of those things will be kind of media tech companies that we'll be reaching out to, working with targeted campaigns through journalists and tier 1 institutes. And the aim is for us here is to kind of look after our retail shareholders and investors, but at the same time, stimulously, aggressively target institutional investment and try and create a brand that we can all be proud of. And then just the final slide is kind of a high-level overview of kind of some of the key activities that we've been working on behind the scenes. But as we head into Q2, we're hoping to launch this brand new new website, which will give you kind of the ecosystem, and we'll be working with an outside external design team. But having said that, we will be looking forward to sharing the current website, phase 1, which we've been developing, and we think you'll really like kind of VLRM.com in terms of an interactive website. There'll be a lot of promotional fireside chats, live streams, and we'll look to put VLRM at the forefront when we start talking about tokenization and growing the business, and we'll be making sure we kind of attend a lot of trade shows and conferences to grow this opportunity. I think what's key for us as a business, it's not just about standing out, it's about building that trust and credibility and recognition. And I think everything you're seeing today is all part of that journey to kind of increase that recognition amongst consumers, investors, partners, in this fast competitive landscape that we are entering. Thank you very much. I will now pass you on to Carl Moss, who will cover governance and all things finance. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. The new board's been very keen since coming together to ensure that under our stewardship, there is very strong governance in place, because we're convinced that adds value to shareholders through having a compelling growth plan, a structure for mitigating risk, and a framework for safeguarding shareholder interests. And we also think that sends a very strong message to all our stakeholders that we have solid integrity in place, which will help attract them to come and engage with us across customers, partners, investors. We've had a few priorities in a very short period of time since coming together in November. However, we put governance right up there and have introduced a substantially enhanced governance infrastructure. You may have seen the output on the website. We have a comprehensive chairman's statement about how our high regard for governance and how we adhere to the QCA code. We've introduced the appointments of 2 non-executive directors. Alongside that, we've established remuneration, nomination and audit committees with very strong non-executive director representations to safeguard the interests of shareholders. And we've provided clarity on what matters are reserved for the board. Now, these are just the tip of the iceberg. Whilst there might be weighty documents in their own right, the tip of the iceberg, because behind that, we've got approximately 60 policies around market abuse regulations and running right across the business, relevant to the fields that we're operating in, that everybody, all employees, are introduced to on their induction and have a maintained access to and refreshers on. So I mentioned the QCA code. That's the code that we are have adopted and adhering to because it's very widely used. It's used by 75%, adopted by 75% of Aquis companies, 93% of AIM companies, and more than 900 companies in total on the main market. So it's very well developed, it's comprehensive, and it's member-led, which means that that the member input is very pertinent and practical. And there's 3 main themes within it. First of all, to have a growth plan that's clear and compelling, and hopefully you've seen from our presentation that that we have put that in place and collated that very quickly. Second strand is to have a competent leadership team. So we feel we've built across the board of 6 a experienced, knowledgeable and passionate team with a range of very complementary skill sets. And beyond that, we've got a wider workforce of expertise that will only grow as the business grows. And we're operating the team to a very ethical culture. as previously mentioned by Pete, integrity and transparency is right at the forefront of how we want to operate, and we've set the bar very high on that right from the start of our tenure. Finally, third strand is communication, which is as important as the other two, and hopefully you've seen that in a small matter of time, the frequency and the comprehensiveness of the communication with shareholders has stepped up several notches, and that's our intention that we'll maintain that moving forward. On the financial update, we are very restricted because of market abuse regulations about what we can share in this forum. Any specific information related to the company, anything that isn't in the public domain. So we'll be updating the wider market all at the same time on financials. However, what I can share and have put into in this slide is just an indication of the market growth in which we operate, because these numbers have been published by the Boston Consulting Group, and we can see that rolling out to FY 2030, they have predicted an estimated exponential growth. So our growth within VLRM, because of those are the markets that we're targeting, are going to be driven by the growth of the market that we're moving into, but also our market share. And given the size of that marketplace, it doesn't take a mathematical genius to work out that, you know, even a small market share in these markets represents a significant level of revenues. So we've heard all about the plan and the strategy. Sadly, great, exciting plans don't come without a requirement for capital. So we are raising capital. We've started that process, and we are intending to raise 4 million through a share issuance before, at the latest, the end of Q3 2024 to support our product launches. The key intentions around that raise, which will be firmed up as we continue our discussions with brokers and formalise those, and we will announce those to the markets as we have them. But currently our intentions are to raise 4 million, which gives us, which supports our capital requirements through FY 25. We have had interest from cornerstone investors. You've seen the supportive pledge from our chairman of 2.5 million, which is very, very gratefully received pledge commitment, demonstrating his commitment to the business. But beyond that, there is other interest, and we will be exploring that in an orderly, formal process through brokers in the very near future. We are intending that will be open to new and existing investors, and we are intending that will include a hold to maturity period to guard against any selling in the market in the near term. We're also very open to selectively divesting partial stakes in the initiatives and products that we launch. There are lots of strategic partners out there who are likely to have appetite to invest. So where we can partially sell a stake in something and generate capital that can generate a stronger return somewhere else within our range of opportunities, we'll be very open to ensuring that we're taking that capital and deploying it to maximize the return for the shareholders. Turning to remuneration, which is always an area of keen interest for shareholders. Again, we want to be very transparent. We are keen to provide reassurance that the leadership and the wider employees are very closely aligned with investors. So we're keen to make sure that the compensation package has rewards linked to value growth. To date, the entire board and some of the employees have been deferring payment of remuneration. We have imposed a maximum salary, including the board and employees, at levels which are below market. We have some board members have agreed to reduce remuneration during the initial months as part of their commitment to the business. So we have an intention, subject to the various approvals, to align management and shareholder alignment through issuing employee incentives and rewards through share option schemes. And as we get those formalised, those regulatory approvals formalised, again, we will announce those to the market altogether, given that they are potentially they're under the market abuse regulations regime. I'll now hand you back to Nick to give a summary.
Thanks, Carl. Okay, so just to wrap it up before we go into Q&A, and just to give a sort of graphic look at the timelines. In terms of markets, just to summarise, we want to get a license application in at some point this year, and we want to get a RWA marketplace open this year. In terms of and launch the wallet. In terms of the technology, we want to get Bridge V1 completed. In terms of phase 1, get it launched and start licensing, and then continue the development through phase 2 to phase 4 over the next 18 months to 2 years. And on VLRM Capital, we want to get the trading vehicle set up during March and be in a position to get cracking during Q2. And then we can look to expand our activity in terms of the yield farming and node operations, etc. And then we can seek to grow those assets under management. So that's the delivery roadmap, just a high level. In terms of the team, the org chart basically looks like this. This is the high level org chart. So at the top, obviously you've got Jamie, and then you've got myself, Carl and Pete and DC, and then the 3 runners of the business. We've got Daryl, who's basically running the tech side, and obviously he works with our technology partners and the dev team to build and deliver on those solutions. And in terms of markets, I'm really excited that Adrian Hogg has come back to join the team. Adrian has been busy helping a really exciting fund get set up, but I was delighted to be able to persuade Adrian to come back and join the band. And Adrian has enormous regulatory and exchange expertise. So Adrian is going to be basically powering ahead with both of the market initiatives and working with Daz in terms of the tech requirements and also getting the wallet deployed. And on the capital side, I'm going to be working with Mark. For those of you who do know Mark, you will know that he is just a brain box when it comes to all things crypto and digital. He's also a great trader and a great friend. And Mark and I are going to try to get the VLRM Capital business to exceed above market returns, and we're very excited and very confident. So we've got I think a fantastic team. One of the things when we first started this presentation was getting certainly my photo updated, because that is a shocker. But that's basically what we look like. We've got a couple of positions that we'll be looking to fill at some point, but that is that's basically the team, and you've obviously met some of us today. And I think, assuming that's my last slide, which I think it is, I just want to, before I hand over to Dees, is just to say again, listen, thank you to not only the management of VLRM for having the vision to basically take the GSX group into the family. You know, we were, I think both companies were probably on their knees come October with the GSX acquisition, obviously hitting a brick wall. And from our perspective at group, not being able to enjoy the proceeds of that sale. And it really took, I think the vision of, Jamie and Pete and Gary as the advisor to see the potential of us, the board member of us coming into the family and joining forces. And hopefully, look, what you've seen over the last, hour is just the tip of the iceberg, really. I think, Carl, working with our advisors, will hopefully be able to submit a lot more transparency in terms of the financial indications and assumptions over the next few weeks. We'll obviously be able to share a lot more with you in terms of the capital raise. But what we've tried to achieve today is to give you an insight into the hard work that's gone on over the last few months, to see the rebranding, to also see that we reversed a team into VLRM, and we basically staffed out the team with, I think, highly qualified specialists to deliver, and put all that into a top governance bucket. I think we've got everything in place to drive this business forward and execute. I think it's a unique opportunity. I think tokenization is here to stay. I think we're in the right place. And look, if tokenization doesn't come through, then obviously we're in a vulnerable position. I do not see that happening. I see this being a once in a generational life cycle event, and we want to be in the middle of it. And we have basically tried to remove all of the businesses within group that weren't focused on us achieving that objective. And what we have now is, I think, a clear runway and the ability to raise capital and the ability to move extremely quickly for a PLC. And we have a top board who are completely supportive and behind what we're doing. And I was going to say we can't wait to get started, but we actually start in November. But I cannot wait to get our first marketplace open. I can't wait to get the VLRM wallet open, and I can't wait to see the first bit of our DFMI vision finally come to fruition. Otherwise, I'm going to put down in a headlock, and I can't wait to do our first trade in VLRM Capital. It's just going to be absolutely, I think, an epic year. So on that note, I'll hand you to DC, and we'll try to do our best to answer your questions to the best of our ability, and hopefully DC won't ask me to answer too many of them.
We shall see, Nick. We shall see. Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody who was stuck with us throughout the presentation. It looks like almost everybody has stayed around, which is fantastic. Let's do a couple of points. First of all, the burning question I know everyone's asking is, where are you going to get access to these t-shirts? The answer is that I'm pushing the executive team to allow me to create a kind of a whole brand associated with the new VLRM design. So in Q2, when you see the new All Singing, All Dancing VLRM website that Pete was talking about earlier, aside from the one you'll see tomorrow, which is a refresh of the existing site, so some elements and changes, but in terms of a revolutionary new site, Q2, we're building towards that. That also you'll see where you can get these t-shirts from, etc. Additionally, just want to point out, of course, that many of you are based from Telegram in terms of your communications with VLRM and those in the community, and those of Gate token holders additionally have their own community that is based on Telegram and have had for a while. The plan and intention is to merge the two, because apparently there are capabilities to do so. So what we will be doing in the near future is merging those two groups together to have one super group full of our community, and you will see some of our admins over on the old GateNet side of Telegram will move over and become admins and support us in the VLRM one for the super group that I mentioned. So now let's get stuck into questions. We've had a few coming in, of course. Again, a few coming from Pete's hair, as mentioned by our chairman. We can't discuss that for legal reasons, but we will get stuck into the first question. We've had, as I mentioned earlier, the handful or a good chunk of questions coming in via the registration option. So I've got these here in front of me, and I will go through them. And basically, I will select, I think, who is probably most appropriate to be answering these, unless one of the panelists really want to jump in and answer them. So question one, we've got long-term shareholders are frustrated at the BOD's broken promises as the board of directors, which has meant the volatility in the share price, leaving genuine investors significantly down. How will you be able to address this and build confidence? So let's pose that, of course, to our CEO, which is Nick.
Okay, thanks, DC. I think the first thing is in terms of, I think the wording was broken promises. Look, I can't comment on obviously what's happened in the past. I think you know, if you're a shareholder of VLRM, like, you know, Pete and Jamie are, then obviously they're closer to the action than I am. But look, I think you know, whether promises were broken or not, I think our job is now, and hopefully you got that message from Carl, is to ensure that we lay out within the confines of market abuse our vision, strategy, and certainly our direction, and where we can, you know, financial indications as best we can. That is the first thing we've got to do, and hopefully today, at least, you've had the first look at certainly elements of that. And I think the second thing is what we've got to do is to keep you in touch. You know, Carl talked about communication. The board is committed to keep you in touch with our progress, and if we are ahead or behind, or we need to course correct, you know, we've got to keep you in touch, and we will. So in terms of promises, you have our commitment to make sure that there are open lines of communication within the confines of market abuse, and we will keep you in touch. What we will do is we will work incredibly hard to deliver on our promises, and what we have laid out today, to the best of our knowledge, are those promises. So, you know, you have our commitment, and we've been given, I think, a unique opportunity to deliver some real good out of what's been a challenging background, both for you guys as shareholders and actually for the GSX Group shareholders and our token holders. So we've got bunches of stakeholders that now we've got an opportunity to make good, and we will. That's the objective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. Really appreciate that. Going to the second question, and that, are you able to share any background information on former CEO Patrick Young's sudden departure from the company? So let's take Jamie, our chairman. Could you answer that question?
Yeah. Look, it became quite clear that early on, actually, that Patrick's vision was not aligned with mine or that of the wider board. And we made a decision that Patrick would step down from his role within VLRM. As the shareholders know, Patrick's got a specific knowledge base, and at this point in time, we don't have a requirement for that. Having said that, clearly, we are happy to enter back into dialogue with Patrick should there ever become a need for his well-publicised skill set.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. Let's talk numbers. Let's talk with our CFO. When will the audit be ready regarding the previous management affairs?
Okay, so after initially coming on board, it was a real struggle to get our hands on the keys of the financial systems and records. So it's a very slow start, but there's been lots of momentum over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's all coming together nicely. There isn't a firm date in the diary because there's a couple of unknown variables, but we will be expecting to bring all that together over the next few weeks. And again, we'll update the whole market simultaneously to make sure we don't fall foul of any market abuse regulations.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate that. So in terms of headcount, where does VLRM stand following the acquisition of GSX Group? And do we currently have the necessary hands-on technical expertise to build out the bridge, etc.? And are new hires required? And I think we did touch on that, of course, during the presentation. But Nick, can you elaborate some further?
Yeah, well, hopefully you've seen the headcount. So I think the team is, apart from a couple of slots, the core team is basically done. And that's the good news. We don't have to spend a lot of time trying to fill positions to get the 3 verticals running. We're basically done, which is, I think, fantastic. We can, to use an Americanism, hit the ground running. In terms of the technology side, the answer is yes. I mean, look, we've been working for 3 years in terms of the tech side. So we have our tech partners. Let's be clear, which I've alluded to before, and I think I spoke to Pete and I did a talking heads chat back in the tail end of 23. Look, we had to take our foot off the pedal with regards to the tech spend and build because we had obviously not been able to complete the divestment of the GSX, the Gibraltar Stock Exchange to VLRM, which, by the way, is a good thing, because if we had, we wouldn't be having this meeting today. So actually, you know, what goes around comes around. So actually, it's been a fantastic outcome. But we had to take our foot off the pedal. That pedal is ready to be pressed. The tech guys are in place, and they are incredibly excited about us taking this project through to certainly completion of phase one. And you know, it's just been a case of getting the EGM for GSX Group out of the way, and now getting the capital raise basically banked, and then we can put everything, get the wheels turning extremely quickly. And we plan on doing that basically during the next quarter. Hence the Q4 projection to get phase one finished. But we've got everything we need, is the short answer, to deliver.
Brilliant. Okay, let's keep you in the hot seat, Nick. Another question: what is the update regarding the exchange partners, and can we expect significant developments?
Yeah, so I think on the exchange partners, a couple of things transpired during 23. I think, and I won't go through specifics because some of them are publicly listed on exchanges. So again, but for different reasons, some of the partners took their foot off the pedal because of the financial market background, interest rates basically going through the roof, etc. So the cost of capital was quite high. So they had deferred their timelines a little bit, which, to be honest, kind of suited, because we'd had to take the foot off the pedal as well. And otherwise, the partnerships are still in place, but they are ultimately partnerships, and partnerships where we are a minority shareholder. As from previous RNSs, we still hold those shareholdings, but we are not in a position of control. So partners move at the pace at which the partners want to move at. I think as a position, though, we have shifted from where we were within GateNet, particularly going back 2-3 years as we were having these discussions. You know, our position was that we really wanted to try to scale as a private company, and providing technology in effect in return for what I would call equity in kind, or sweat equity, was a strategy we deployed back then. I think where we are with VLRM today, and VLRM Technology, and the board's position is, you know, we aren't interested in terms of supplying technology in return for equity. Obviously, maybe if BlackRock, or we might make an exception, but we want to be able to license our technology in return for fees, and that's ultimately the model. So I think what will happen now with this meeting out of the way, and obviously now, you know, being a formal part of the VLRM company, we can now start to re-engage with our partners, particularly now we have a roadmap for the tech to get kickstarted again, and we'll see what comes out of those discussions, Dees.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So another question here. Let's go. How do you see market cap growing in the next 12 months and over 3 years?
Is that me or Carl?
That's well, who would like to take it? I think it's you, but Carl, more than happy to.
I'm happy to kick it off.
Okay.
So I think what we've got to do is, with as per the presentation, we've got to basically deliver and execute on what we've said we're going to deliver and execute on. That will create and build confidence with our stakeholders. Obviously, the objective is we then start to drive the top line, and obviously in time that will drive the bottom line. I often think with market cap, if we do our job, market cap will take care of itself. The market cap will be what the market cap will be, and obviously Carl, when he's in position to, will be able to hopefully provide a little more colour on how we see the financial opportunity laying out over the next cycle, the next probably 5 years, and that might give some indication on, if you join the dots and apply a multiple, what that market cap could look like. But that's obviously up to the shareholders to decide rather than us. But Carl, feel free to jump in. Mute, Carl, you're just on mute.
Sorry, we're bound again by market abuse regulations about putting any numbers out there, but rest assured we'll be driving the business as hard as we can, and if we get things right and execute the plan, then we're confident that will drive the market cap forward as revenues and profits flow.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl and Nick. Appreciate that. There is a follow-up question for Nick. The RNS on the 15th of January 2024 discusses a reboot of relations with Avina Gupta's Materium. How is that progressing?
So what will happen now is with Adrian in the hot seat, the first thing that he'll be doing is working with Daryl to scope out the business requirements of the real world asset marketplace. He'll engage with the relevant tech partners that we have to look at the different white label solutions that are available to us. And I'm sure Vinay and Material will be one of those that we'll engage with. And then we'll progress the relationship according to the business requirements defined by Adrian and implemented by the tech guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So now a question, let's actually direct it for the chairman. So James will be in control of nearly 90 million shares plus. What are his commitments to not selling shares in the short, medium, and long term?
Okay, well, I'll answer that with the same statement that I made earlier. The fact that the shares are in my hands, they're very sticky. And what I will say is just repeat that I have absolutely no intention of selling any of my shares. And to caveat that, I also have no intention on going anywhere. So hopefully that will give clarity around that point.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Very direct. Let us roll on to a tech question, everyone. We have, firstly, 95% can seem ambiguous. That's in relation, I guess, to the progress of the DFMI platform. Are you able to elaborate on what the final 5% covers and timelines for the completion and how? So introduce you to our CTO, Daryl. Daryl, could you give an explanation of that?
Hi, everyone. So there's a few parts to that question. So firstly, I would clarify that we expect development on the platform to continue for many years as we carry on advancing the platform and making improvements to it. So when we refer to that percentage, we're basically meaning the platform reaching a point of MVP, minimum viable product. As in, we believe the functionality included in the platform at that state would make it suitable to be operated in a production environment. So you heard Nick mentioning earlier about V1. V1 is basically our MVP product. Then some may have already seen the demo video we recorded a little while ago on the platform and shown that the front ends were just about done and looking good. While some of the remaining work will touch on the front ends, they're mainly back-end functionalities. So the most notable of the remaining tasks are integration of additional fee modules for primary and secondary trading, and also implementing a new higher speed integration with the CSD back office system, which will help with platform performance. And onto the last part of how and timelines. We don't underestimate the scale of the task remaining. Once the funding is in place, we'll need to allow a lead time of a few months to bring a new development team on board, bring them up to speed on the vision, our target operating models, the business goals of what we want to achieve with the platform, and get them accustomed to the existing code and structure. And from there, we could be looking at 4 to 5 months of fast-paced development to complete the remaining functions and reach a point of MVP.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. I'll pretend I understood all of it. Let's go on to another question.
That's Daz's way of saying Q4 24, Nick, you're dreaming. But I think what he means is we will do our best to hit that deadline.
Yeah, he makes sure our dreams and aspirations are done properly, I guess. Another question for this one's for Carl. What percentage of the market share of the tokenization markets are you aiming to achieve?
Again, we're bound here, but what I can say is, given the size of those predicted markets, it won't have to be a very big market share, even at very low percentages, that generates significant revenues.
Brilliant. Okay, so next question I will pass on to let's pass on to Nick. Actually, we call him the Dark Lord internally. So this question is for the Dark Lord himself. That is regarding Gate Token. Nick, the strategy advised that a percentage of fees received will be returned to holders. Does this make the token a security? If so, does this prevent any barriers to entry to certain financial markets?
Don't think so. I mean, we've when we released the white paper back in 21, we took legal advice, and that legal advice determined that the utility token was not a security. So we don't think it's caught as a security. We generate transaction fees and we pay rewards in gate token. Obviously, jurisdiction to jurisdiction, there may be a difference in opinion. I mean, currently the SEC, I think, views everything apart from BTC and maybe ETH as a security. That's assuming the SEC is the regulator. I'm not sure that's entirely clear right now. I guess it depends on the jurisdiction where we're talking about. But certainly from our perspective, we've been quite careful in sourcing opinions, and we don't see it as security at all. But clearly, it's up to the individual user to be able to take a view whether they are eligible to own that token or not, depending on where you're based.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that clarification. Let's go on. Stick you in the hot seat some more. Will the money raised be used to strategically grow the company?
100%. Yeah, hopefully I've gone through that. But yes, 100%. There's nothing else we want to do with that money. We want to put it to work very, very quickly. I think there's a couple of things. I think what Carl was alluding to. So let me just give a bit more transparency around that as an example. So we're going to be obviously putting a lot of money into the tech side, okay? And the primary objective is to get the DFMI phase 1 over the line, and then we can start earning from that technology by licensing it. However, the capital heavy parts are in VLRM markets, particularly when you're looking at a public exchange at CSD, it's capital heavy. And what Carl was alluding to was, at some point, we will seek, depending on the position of VLRM at that time and VLRM markets, we will not be opposed to bringing in a strategic partner, for example, into that exchange and CSD. Minority, we want to control the exchange, we want to be the majority shareholder, but we're not opposed to bringing in a strategic partner or partners to give us capital to be able to capitalize that business and grow the exchange and CSD, but also use that capital to bring it up to Topco, and then Carl, the money dark lord, can determine where that capital should be deployed, hopefully into VLRM Capital, so I can make some money with it. No, I'm kidding, but that's basically the platform. But the capital we raise is absolutely focused on building and achieving the objectives that we've laid out in our presentation today.
Brilliant. Yeah, appreciate that. Last question for the Dark Lord. Have we missed the boat on tokenization, and why is it exciting?
I don't think we have. I don't think we have at all. I think, unfortunately for us, it's actually been quite slow to gain traction. And I say fortunately because we've obviously lost some time over our cycle in terms of getting our tech finished. And look, I screwed up in 18 because I thought that every crypto exchange was going to be regulated by the end of the year. And here we are 6 years later and it's still not there. So the fact that we had some bad actors get into digital securities wrongly, and that didn't work out very well, I think is in many ways ironically helpful for us. So I think what's happened is there have been some false starts. There hasn't been a maturing of the asset class. And we think that that's now set to change for all the reasons that we put in the presentation. So I don't think we're late. And I don't think this is one of those things that's going to be, like NFTs here now and maybe not quite as bullish in a year's time. I think this is the future, and it's a 20-year cycle. I mean, that's how I see this playing out. Long after I've gone, this business will be continuing to develop and mature. So I think we're genuinely on ground floor of the elevator, and I think there's a massive opportunity there, given the statistics that we're looking at in terms of getting opportunity to scale.
Amazing. So that wraps up the questions and of course our presentation today. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out to obviously listen. I know that was lengthy. It was a lot of information to take in. I will repeat, do not worry. The presentation along with the video will be available on VLRM.com tomorrow. Now, there is a caveat to that. We are hoping to launch it tomorrow. It may be Monday, but either way, it'll be on VLRM.gi or the new website for you to see and obviously reread at your leisure. If we didn't get to your question, do not worry. There is, as you can see on your screen, investorrelations@VLRM.com. You can email, and we will endeavour, of course, pending that we're allowed to talk about it, we'll try and get your questions answered. Huge thank you to everyone that is on the panel, of course, for all the team to giving all of your insights. I hope that it was useful for everybody. And I hope now we can continue discussion in the Telegram group. And don't forget, any updates, as always, will be via RNSs or via social media and via our websites. In addition to that, you will see a slower transition of rebranding for various entities, for example, like GateNet, the Gate token, which will remain the Gate token as a name, but it may look a bit different branding wise, etc. So we're going to roll out those changes to the new branding as of post this meeting. So you will see on Twitter, for example, etc. You'll see kind of updated graphics and everything else in between. So thank you everyone again for your time. And that is it from us in the VLRM team. And we'll see you all again for a future, probably shareholder meeting, no doubt. If not, we'll speak to you in the Telegram and elsewhere. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.